Thanks for tuning in to more NASCAR coverage on Proline TV as we take a look at Talladega following what was supposed to be qualifying today. There was not going to be any practice, but no qualifying today. They canceled it because there was supposed to be steady rain, light rain, and yet I don't really think that happened. So whatever, it's Talladega, it's Speedway. Anyway, they go to the metrics, and the metrics are so silly, but they are what they are. So let's take a look at the starting lineup. Okay, Tyler Reddick on the pole. You see the rest here. Really qualifying for Talladega is not a big deal. Let's go through the rest. All right. I guess the ones that get a little bit further back who will be contenders are Joey Logano at 25th. Kyle's actually had some moments, but result-wise, not so much. So most of the top contenders are going to be starting up front. And when we take a look, once again, overall at the history of Talladega, talking about whether or not, how do we know qualifying doesn't matter and all that other stuff? Well, if you look at it, only three, this is just next gen, only 3 of the 8 next gen winners started in the top 10. Chase Briscoe won the race in the fall from the 2nd position. And Briscoe was the only winner who started in the top 3 rows in next gen. The average starting position of next gen winners was 17th before Briscoe's 2nd in 2025 in the fall race. There's only been one pole sitter, one here since the 2017 fall race, one in the last 17. So Reddick has his work cut out for him. And then we talked about this on Tuesday. Don't forget, link in the description of this video. CJ Radoon, the award-winning fantasy NASCAR writer for rotowire.com. There's a link in the description for his report at rotowire.com, his DFS report. And CJ and I do the show on Tuesday, and we went over this, that there have been 8 different drivers winning in the next gen, 11 different drivers in the last 11. How about that? So we went over the list of those drivers who you should probably stay away from if you believe in that trend. So if you want to know who those 11 drivers are, check out the show on Tuesday. All right, let's pop up the odds now, which really hasn't changed much. Here they are. And look, I know we just gave you that deal about the pole sitter, but Tyler Reddick at 16-1, what a value play. It's actually my top pick on Tuesday. And I'm like, this guy, we said it on the Tuesday show last week before he stole another win last week in Kansas, and that this guy just lately, after getting off to a really good start and laps led and dominating races and that, where now he's just coming off out of nowhere late in races and just winning races. He's just finding a way to win races. And so I look at a driver that does not have a great history here. It's not great. He does have a win in the spring race. So a couple of years ago, he's got the win, but it's only top 5 at Talladega out of his career. 12 starts, average finish 17.8, but still you're getting 16-1 on Reddick. Wallace is probably a good pick. We'll talk about fantasy in just a second. That's going to be the big deal about this show in just a minute. But 14-1, a little low for me to win the race, but definitely a driver that you want to be keeping an eye on this week. Bubba's got a lot going on for him. He got up to a great start. Then things kind of dipped, but all of a sudden he's kind of picked things back up. He's got a win here in 2021. And he's one of only 3 drivers in the Cup Series that has finished in the top 10 in both Atlanta and Daytona this year. His last 3 finishes at Talladega are 4th, 8th, and 9th. Chase Briscoe is my second choice. And I'm very surprised you're getting 20-1 on Briscoe. Very surprised. We're going to get into him in fantasy just a second as well. He does have a win here. That was the that was the spring race. Not spring, it's the fall race we just talked about. He led 16 laps, but he also led 20 laps in the spring. So he did really well last year in both races at Talladega. Led 16 in the win in the fall, led 20 in the spring. And he's sitting there at 20-1. Keselowski has a great history. There's no question about it. But he hasn't won a race since he's left Penske. But still, next gen, he's had a couple top fives. He's been solid, but nowhere near the dominating car he was at Penske. So that's why 16-1 is just, it's okay. I don't think it's great value at all. If anything, sort of like where Wallace is. I don't know. It's a little short for my blood, but not a bad idea. Then there's Byron and Elliott, the teammates there, the Penske teammates. Byron has never won a race at Talladega, and he's sitting there at 14-1, probably because in his last 6 races, he has a 7.8 average, even though he finished 25th in his last race in the fall. So he's been really good here lately, but again, he's never won a race at Talladega, and he's sitting there at 14-1. Elliott, meanwhile, has 2 wins at this track, so he's definitely a better choice here, especially when you take a look at the fact that he's got a win in the next gen, the 2022 fall race. 50% of his next gen results are in the top 10. Ty Gibbs is a very good value play, sitting there at 25-1. And if you take a look at Gibbs in his career, really not that great at Talladega. 7 races, 22.4 average, but he's coming off a 3rd place finish in the fall. And in this race last year, he led 32 laps. That was the most of any driver. And Chris Buescher will start 10th at 18-1. Not a race I'm really excited about taking Buescher, though. His average is 21.1 with 1 top 5 in his career in 21 races. Next up, we take a look at the top contenders. And anytime you're at Talladega, you got to look at some intriguing long shots. But first of all, I think you got some good value on Carson Hocevar. Hocevar in his last 2 races, this was last year, both races, he finished 6th. And he started 28th and 32nd. Here, he's going to start 12th because of the system. His average start in 5, well, you know what? I'm going to hold that to fantasy. Cindric, 14-1. He's actually one of the favorites. Of course, that's because he's Penske with Logano and Blaney. So you're not getting any value with a driver like Cindric. But you do understand why Cindric is being placed as one of the favorites here. Overall, you take a look at the fact that he is the defending champ of the race, won this race last year, leading 7 laps, and he's led a lap in his last 5 races, at least 1 lap or more in the last 5 races here. The only thing I don't like about him is that his average starting position is 9th. Here, he will start 13th, and his average finish is about 19th. And we're going to get to Blaney and Logano in just a second. Don't really like the way Penske's results have been going lately at Talladega. Cindric did get the win last year. But in general, Blaney and Logano results haven't been working out. Matter of fact, you see Blaney there at 10-1, and he's going through a little bit of a dry spell where in his last 4 races at Talladega, his average is 29.7. He's only led 18 laps in his last 5 races at Talladega. Very un-Blaney-like with 3 career wins here. And then Logano, you see him at the bottom there at 12-1, one of the favorites. Logano does have 3 career wins, just like Blaney at Talladega. But it's interesting is he also has a bad result average, 27.5 in next gen. Blaney's was the last 4 races. Logano, 8 races, 27.5. But he's led at least 19 laps in his last 5 races at Talladega. So something is just not working for him, whether it's luck, whatever. And I often talk about this when a driver's on a super speedway and he doesn't have luck. I just wait for him to get out of the bad luck. I just don't want to take a driver on a super speedway, restricted plate track, whatever you want to call these things. Don't like doing it when they're going through a bad spell, because luck matters a lot in these races. You either have it or you don't. Okay, now, as far as some long shots in this group, I'd say Herbst, Gilliland, Jones. Those are the ones that I do like. A couple that are not on the board that I would keep an eye on, let's see, would be Gilliland. Actually, he is on the board. Who is it? Oh, it's Jones. Oh, he's on the board. Who is it that I know there's a couple of guys that did not make the cut, or who is it? Oh, is Zane Smith make it there? No, Zane Smith is not there. Okay, so Zane Smith would be one of them. I knew there was one or two, and Gregson. That's the other one. Okay, Gregson and Zane Smith. Those are the two long shots that did not make the cut. Keep this in mind. In the last two spring races at Talladega, Gregson has finished 3rd and 4th. Zane Smith, meanwhile, is the other one of 3 drivers who have finished in the top 10 at Atlanta or Daytona this year. Zane Smith and Bubba Wallace joining Tyler Reddick. So both Zane Smith and Gregson, I think, also interesting long shots. And again, as I mentioned here on this board, Gilliland has 50% of his results at Talladega in the top 10. He was also runner-up in the fall when he led 11 laps. His average start is 19.9. His average finish is 13.1. And he's a big number. Eric Jones, also 50%. Next gen, top 10. One of those top 5s. He also has 18 career races at Talladega and 8 top 10s. So those are some others that I would look at. And as we turn our attention to one more, and that's Riley Herbst, let me throw you into the DFS contest at DraftKings and show you what we're going to go with. And we are going to go with Herbst, McDowell, Hocevar, Briscoe, Wallace, and Logano. Riley Herbst on the bottom. You know, he's starting to finally peak out in these last several races. Hey, look at me. I'm hanging around. And we haven't seen Riley Herbst for over a year. We haven't seen anything until the last month so far of this season. And so when I see a driver starting to show that hey, wait a second. Yeah, he's now being noteworthy lately. Well, you can turn noteworthy into a big result just like that. And this is the perfect track to do that. Herbst has raced here 4 times in the Cup Series. He has 1 top 10. And get this too, in his career in the Cup Series, he has 3 career top 10s. The 1 here and 2 at Daytona. So these are his top 10s in his career at these super speedways. In the O'Reilly Series, of course, this is where drivers come from. So, you know, a lot of times if they do well on certain tracks in the O'Reilly, they should eventually do well in the Cup Series. Well, Herbst, in his final 2 races in the O'Reilly Series in 2024 at Talladega, he finished 2nd and 3rd, leading a combined 35 laps. In his last 2 races at Daytona in 2024, he finished 4th and 6th. And in 9 career starts at Atlanta in the O'Reilly Series, he has 4 career top 10s. So that's why I'm going to go ahead and throw a little money on Herbst, and I'm also going to put him in the fantasy, because you're always got to look for a couple of outliers. I mean, just take a look recently in the last, just talking overall super speedways last year or so. Cody Ware, fall race, Daytona, led 23 laps. Alfredo, the spring race at Talladega, led 19 laps. And then others. I mean, John Hunter Nemechek led 11 laps in the spring at Daytona. He also led 11 laps in the fall at Talladega last year. John Hunter did. We mentioned Gilliland leading laps. Berry led 27 laps in the fall at Talladega as well. So that's what's going to happen. You are going to get drivers, and it's not easy to pick them, but that's why I'd rather just not go crazy and go, okay, well, I'm going to go with Cole Custer. I'm just going to throw a dart at a board like a Cody Ware. I'm going to try to do it. I'm trying to make sense of it. That's why I decided to go with Herbst. I also decided to go with McDowell. All right. And if you look at McDowell, he didn't get his fair chance to try to go to the pole again, because he's had 3 poles in the last 4 at Talladega until today. but he never had a top 10 in those races. But fantasy-wise, it's important to note that he led 93 laps in his last 4 races at Talladega. It's a lot of laps for a driver that only costs right around $7,000. He does have 3 career top 5s in 13 races at Talladega as well. So that's why I'm putting those 2 in. Other long shots I think you should consider. Let's go down here. And I would, let's see, long shots. Let's go under $7,000. Definitely Gilliland. Absolutely. 6,400. Put him on your team if you can. Eric Jones, 6,300. Zane Smith, 6,200. Nemechek, 6,000. There's Gregson at 59. Those are the other long shot drivers that you really need to consider tomorrow at Talladega. Now, what about those average drivers, the cost of those average drivers? One of them we have here is Carson Hocevar, sitting there at 7,700. That's right about here, which I think is a nice little bargain. He's pretty much in the Ryan Preece area. I also think Ty Gibbs is another one that you should look at, both for the fact that he's 25-1 and he's only 7,400. If you take a look at the other drivers around him, I think Gibbs and Hocevar stick out without a doubt at cap area. The reasoning, as I was saying before, Hocevar last year finished 6th in both races. He didn't lead a lot of laps, but again, he was coming from behind, 28th and 32nd. He gets a little better starting position here. And this is his average in his 5 Talladega races in the Cup Series. He starts 34th. He finishes 15th. That is a big deal in fantasy, including those 2 top 10s. And he also had a pretty good finish. I don't think I have it here. He had a pretty good result on one of these other super speedways lately. I'm not sure exactly which one it was, but he definitely can drive on these tracks. He knows what he's doing. All right, now a little bit further up, that's where we get Wallace and Briscoe. So we move a little bit up here. And considering Denny Hamlin has had some struggles lately here, we're never going to bet Kyle Larson this high in the cap on a super speedway. You can forget about that. So right here in this area is where we grab Wallace and Briscoe. And the reason, again, we already gave you a little bit of a reason why for both of them. I already told you about Briscoe. That's an obvious one. Also gave you the information on Wallace. So you have those reasons why we like them. The only thing is they're starting up front, but I look at that as a positive because that means they could lead laps. And they're more than capable of leading laps. Here you go. Bubba Wallace. If you take a look, again, just since 2025, we got 2 Talladega, 3 Daytona, and 1 Atlanta this year. Okay, so those 6 races I looked at. Well, Wallace has led 46 laps, 40 laps. Yeah, so he's got 2 races. He has the 40 laps that he led in the Daytona 500 this year. That was the most. Okay. And he led 46 laps in Atlanta. So he's basically led more laps than any driver this year on the super speedways, Bubba Wallace. And we told you his results. Briscoe, he's led 27 laps at Atlanta this year, 23 laps in the 500 this year. He also led 20 laps and 16 laps, as I mentioned before, in Talladega last year, including the win. So that's why I've got Briscoe and Wallace. And again, you're getting 88, 85 compared to drivers who are a lot more expensive than him, like Byron, Larson, Hamlin. And again, I'm just going over drivers. Buscher's in that range. And Cindric's a little bit in that range. So those are the drivers that I feel are better values than those. And then the final one is Logano. He's my most expensive driver. And even though we went over the results, we also went over the laps. And that's why I'm going with Logano. Also, like the fact that Joey Logano starts 25th. I think he's the best. He might be the best pick here, which is why for the amount of money I'm asking him to go with, competing with the likes of my top pick, Reddick, his teammate Blaney, my favorite driver, those top drivers, I'm willing to say Logano's the one. And that's because the combination of starting 25th, I have confidence he's going to lead laps. He always does, because take a look at this. In these races I mentioned, Atlanta this year, he led 26 laps. Daytona 500, he did not lead many laps at all there. But in last year's Daytona fall race, he led 27. In the 500 last year, he led 43. In the 2 races at Talladega last year, he led 24 and 35. So he's just not leading a couple laps here and there. Just about in every super speedway lately, he's been leading about 20 laps or so. And let's see, where has he started? So he did start 16th in the fall race at Talladega when he led 35 laps. That was, I think, the farthest back he was, because normally Joey and Ryan Blaney start up front normally because they're really fast. So that's why I look at this. Look, he's not starting 25th because he's slow. He's starting 25th because of the metric. I'm going to take advantage of that metric, and that's why Logano is my top driver of the week. So there you go. Again, yes, I would consider Reddick. He was my top pick on Tuesday. I think you're getting good value at 16-1. So I would definitely consider him, especially since he's on the pole. So that should give him the ability to lead laps. He might even lead a lot of laps early. So that's and again, if he winds up stealing the win again, I might regret not putting him in there. But I had a choice, Logano or Reddick, and I'm just going with Logano because, as I mentioned, the laps, the positioning, and really, in my mind, the only way I lose to Reddick by taking Logano is if Reddick wins. Okay? And if he wins, I'm in good shape because I've already picked him as my top pick on Tuesday. I got good money on him. I'm a winner either way in that situation. So that's what you got to do. You got to do that yourself. If you're wagering on these drivers and you're also doing contests, make sure you hedge a little bit. Don't go all in. All right. That's it. So I hope you appreciate it. Let us know what you think. Don't forget to subscribe and like. All of that stuff really helps us here. It gives me the opportunity to produce these shows for free and get it out there in a timely manner, no matter when, including weekends. So thanks for tuning in. We'll see everybody on Tuesday for more coverage. I know CJ is going to be taking off a week, the week of the All-Star race. That's perfect timing. We're going to try to do the preview of the Coke 600 that weekend, as well, with the big race, of course, the Indy 500, before he leaves. So hopefully we'll get some odds before he leaves. I don't know if we will or not, but with the All-Star race, it's possible we will. Coke 600, big race. So I'm going to record that early, or we may even do it live since we're not doing a show the week of the All-Star race. But anyway, that's coming up. Still have a few weeks before that. And enjoy the coverage. And I don't know if you can enjoy the coverage, but enjoy the race as best you can. Hopefully we got a good one, and hopefully it'll end under green.